I have to say though, I packed an overnight bag, right,
Okay.
for this move, right? Because
Yeah.
everything else is in boxes. And you know what I discovered, Dan? I have forgotten how to pack.
Oh, yes. Same.
Like how only 2 nights I needed to live out of this bag, but I couldn't fit it all in a duffel bag
Oh,
anymore.
yeah. No. Well, I used to have a go bag, for any travel. I could be pretty much be on the road to Europe within an hour or so, and off I go. And my first trip back, my first real, work trip was to DC. And I was like in a panic, like, where's this? And, everything had all my Visine and everything had all dried out from 2 years. So I was like, I'm just not used to it. Yeah, it's crazy.
Oh yeah. Well, and it's like, A, I don't know how I ever got anything into a check-on bag.
Yeah.
And then B, I forgot a toothbrush.
Yeah.
I forgot just things where I'm just like, who am I now? Exactly. I don't know how to travel anymore. Oh my God. Are you ready to do this?
I'm ready, man.
All right, here we go.
Welcome to the CXR channel, our premier podcast for talent acquisition and talent management. Listen in as the CXR community discusses a wide range of topics focused on attracting, engaging, and retaining the best talent. We're glad you're here.
I think that I have made the decision to actually keep the music. I keep saying I'm going to change the music, and I think I'm going to keep it every time I'm jamming. Thanks for joining us, everybody. If you're watching, you can see that I'm in a new location today. This is the new office, and we are streaming live while unscheduled construction and unscheduled landscaping and unscheduled everything seems to be happening. So today could be pretty interesting and disruptive. So thanks in advance for working through it with me and the guest today. If you're watching us live on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, give us a shout, a quick hello. Let us know that everything's working okay, that you're seeing us all right. If you feel so inclined, go ahead and drop a link to your favorite social profile so that ourselves and other listeners can go ahead and connect directly with you. And for the next 20 minutes or so, if you've got a question or a comment for the show, then just add it in the chat stream and we'll see if we can pull that up for you. Now, joining us today is friend and longtime CXR community member and global TA leader, Dan Black. Dan, welcome to the show.
Chris, thanks for having me. And my vote, just for the record, is keep the music, because I found myself,
it's got a little bit of a thing though.
A little kick in the step. I like it.
Yeah, we'll keep it. Well, Dan, for those who don't know you, who haven't had the pleasure of meeting you, can you give us sort of an escalator pitch about who is Dan Black and why should we be hanging out with him today?
Sure. Well, I mean, you should hang out because I was smart enough to come onto your podcast. So that's reason enough alone, spending some time with Chris.
For sure.
I have been in the TA space for about 25 years or so, a long time, but I've had lots of different roles and different responsibilities over the course of the time. So I've been at one organization. So that makes me a bit of a rarity these days. I've been at Ernst & Young, EY, for all of those years. But had some time in HR generalists, some time doing campus and university relations, campus recruiting, a little bit on the lateral side, direct admin and executive hiring. So I've done a little bit of everything and really cut my teeth in New York, in the New York area where I live, and then expanded to the US. And then gradually over time, now where I lead all of our efforts. So anyone that joins EY, anywhere in the world, any service line, any rank comes through our team, which has been just a joy and a privilege to lead. And just from I always give this little bit, Chris, because it's of interest to my fellow brethren and sister in TA. Volumetric wise, on an average year, we're hiring about 100,000 people in a year. In this past year, post-pandemic and making up for some attrition, et cetera, we hired in calendar 2021 140,000 people.
Holy smokes!
Yeah, crazy.
Yeah, I love that. But Dan, you leave some things out, right? You've been when I think of our members who really help to define community. You're one of them. I mean, you were NACE president and board member for I don't think you're NACE president for all 3 years, but you're NACE president and board member, right? 3 years.
Yeah.
You're volunteer firefighter.
Correct. Yes.
And New York Metro advisory board member, March of Dimes.
Oh, yes.
Right. And you're a soccer coach.
And well, yeah. So now I finally have hung up the soccer. Now I'm just a soccer referee, but for years and years,
Okay.
I'm very active in youth sports. For two youths in particular, my two kids both played soccer and baseball, softball, respectively, for my son and my daughter. Now they've both gotten so good that they are beyond my tutelage. So I have turned them over to professional coaches, and they both selected baseball and softball and moved away from soccer. So I still stay active in the community as a referee, and and help out with youth sports in my hometown in Westchester.
Yeah, I did the volunteer coach thing when my
Yeah,
kids were little, and U7,
yeah,
I think it was U7.
yeah.
So
That sounds right.
that was the extent. I had to study soccer. I had never really played soccer.
That's
That
right.
was the extent of my coaching experience.
Well, you're getting like your kid tells you, "Hey, I think it's time, Dad. I think it's time to." Because you're always the toughest on your own kid when you're a coach. You're always the toughest on your own kid, and everyone else gets a pass. So they're like, "Yeah, Dad, I think I'm ready for something else." Okay,
Yeah.
I hear you. Just kind of
You into
weeping off in
early
the
coach
corner.
retirement. I love that.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, so Dan, give us a little bit of because you are the community guy, right? We're just
Yeah.
going to call you the community guy, right? You're always giving back, but give us a little bit of history with regards to your passion for college and early career,
Sure.
right? To maybe put our topic in context, because you've recently had an experience
Yes,
with one of your offspring
that's right.
in this channel, and I'd love to let's give some context. Like,
Sure.
tell us about your college recruiting history, that early
Yeah.
career history.
So it's fascinating. I'm one of these people that never had an intention to go, into campus recruiting or recruiting in general or talent. I was a pure business major at Binghamton University, where I went to school, and I was like, I'll start in accounting, but maybe I'll do finance, maybe I'll be a trader, maybe I'll be a broker, anything on Wall Street. That was really my life plan. And really through a whole series of, fortune, misfortune, however you want to look at it. I was Chris, I promise I was doing okay. I was a good auditor at EY. There was just an opportunity where I had a big chunk of my schedule, and the person who recruited me from campus said, "Hey, we could use a hand for 6 months. Could you come and help in campus recruiting?" And that 6 month has since turned into a career. But at the time, what really grabbed me was, whether it's my community work or charity work, what have you, I really enjoy helping people. And I found my campus and college gave me the opportunity to do that all the time. And not just giving people their first job or their first internship, which is, of course, very rewarding, but helping people along their journey to discover what it was that they were passionate about or what kind of organization might be a fit for them. So I was getting paid to do something I love, to help people, to give them guidance, to give them advice. And, as a parent, when I later became a parent, I'm like, they don't really appreciate your guidance as much as someone who is really looking to, again, their first career, their first job, their first employer. And I got so much satisfaction out of that I said, boy, I think we could do this. We, meaning me and my team, we could do this better. And that's what really launched me down the campus recruiting road. And we started to do some really different things, especially for a large organization like EY that, that enabled more of my team to make more of those connections into college recruits.
Would you say that early career in college is still your favorite sort of component of recruiting?
It's interesting. Oh, well, for sure, we'll always have that place in my heart. I will say that there is, like the last 2 years, as an example, people that have been well along in their career trajectory, lateral hires, I feel like they need more of the help. If you're a campus recruit right now, I know the last couple of years may have felt a little bumpy, but you have, the world is your oyster, it feels like at this point, right?
Yeah,
So those people that have all of a sudden come to an epiphany about whether it's a career change or or wanting to make a different turn or have 6, 7 different options that they didn't have 4 or 5 years ago. I find that connecting with them right now, that's where I can make a bigger impact. But campus will always be kind of number one in my heart. Yeah.
So Dan, with all that, what is it like to go through the college experience?
Yeah.
With your kid and that professional lens, like,
oh my gosh. I have to actually set the stage a little bit because so my son Tommy, he's a senior in high school as we speak, and about a year ago, things were opening up a little bit in the U.S. in terms of COVID and restrictions, and so we're like, let's go and take some tours and just get a sense for what kind of university you might want to go to. And right out of the gate, before we even stepped foot in the car for our first road trip, he goes, "Dad, I don't want you to be extra." Now, extra in teenage lingo is like, don't try to pile on any kind of extra knowledge or, any fancy. He's like, I know what you do for a living. I know you know colleges, but I'm not trying to hear all that. I want to make some of my own decisions. So
Calm
don't
down.
do that.
Calm down, Dad.
And my wife, she's an attorney, she goes, he's right. You're going to try to impose everything you've learned in campus recruiting in 20 years into his little, college university search, and it's going to be brutal. And she's right, and she's absolutely right. So I had to take a step back right out of the gate and say, this is not me doing my job. This is me doing a different job. Being a dad and giving him, trying to help him, guide him a little bit.
It is kind of our job, though,
as
dads, to cram everything we've learned into small 5-minute lessons.
That's right. It's like that. Like he removes one of his. He's a gamer, so he'll remove what if you can't tell me in 3 minutes, I don't have time for it, and then it puts it right back on.
Yeah. And which is worse, do you think, being extra or being basic?
I think, well, it depends on who you ask. So my 17-year-old says extra is worse. My 14-year-old says basic. So I can't win. I'm always like, run in the middle of that yellow line. I'm going to get run over one way or the other.
Yeah. I'm always learning new terms from my kids. Like spill the tea.
Yeah.
I learned thirst trap. I learned that a few weeks
really?
ago. Yeah. I don't even think I can explain it well. But
the problem with me is that I'm always learning from them, but I'm always like 3 or 4 months. So by the time I've caught on to when you use these terms, it's already passed. So I'll be like, oh man, that party was lit. And both of my kids like, Dad, lit was like so January. I mean, please, you're embarrassing yourself.
I'm a little upset now because I thought, well, I know lit. I feel good about that.
Yeah, lit's out. Lit is gone. Yeah.
Okay, so Dan, give me a high point and a low point of bringing all that Dan Black experience on the college journey.
So I have to say the high point was having enough exposure to the kinds of universities that are out there. I think your average dad may not have that. I'm very fortunate for my work. When we first planned out, I planned 2 road trips to say, Tom, we're not going to go look at schools that are in your target range, because he didn't have any, right? He pretty sure he wanted to do engineering, but he goes, Dad, I don't know what that means from a school standpoint. And I said, we're going to plan 2 trips. We live in New York, so we do 1 trip up to Boston and 1 to Pennsylvania. I said, on those trips, we're going to see big, small, public, private, contained in the city, something more suburban, so you can get a sense of what type of university is yours.
Yeah.
And that was a huge win, because I have to tell you, Chris, after that first trip, we debriefed every school in the car because he was a captive audience. And I said, Tom, I'm not looking for a book report, but what did you like about that school and not like? And literally after 2 road trips, he said, Dad, I want to be in a bigger institution that's away from a city, that's going to have a contained campus feel to it. I like public versus private. And he had reasons for all of this. And I was like, wow. And that was a real high, because now we had direction. I would say the low point was, and I did an article in the local paper, was my alma mater, Binghamton, was in his scope because they have a great engineering program, et cetera. And my low point was I really started to push him towards the benefits of Binghamton at the expense of the other school. I'm a proud alumnus. I wanted to, and I realized that whenever he asked a question, my example of what would be good was something that reflected well on Binghamton. Now, it's a great school, but there were other great schools, and I was starting to make some of those decisions, or at least some of those assumptions on his behalf. And that's when I caught myself and said, I can't do that anymore. I don't want to have that kind of influence. He's got to make this decision on his own.
Yeah, well, it's funny. Let's see if I can show this here. So Josh Sweetie, God bless him, he says, if Dan's son won't listen to his advice about college, the rest of us dads have zero hope.
Probably right. Oh my goodness. But
well, it's kind of interesting to me. I mean, did you get feedback from him that did the kid think that it helped at all, or was it really, Dad, you're being a little extra calm down, I'll make my own choices?
It's funny because at the very, as we got through the process, so that first, those visits were all last summer, and then we went through, there's the application process, a Common App, writing the essay, et cetera. The more that I was able to empower him to make those decisions and next steps and choices, the better he felt. So I actually got several thank yous along the way, which is rare from a teenage boy, I'll tell you right now, saying, Dad, I'm glad. So perfect example, I found him a college coach who was someone that only graduated 2 years before he did from his high school. So he made an instant connection with her. She was she's at Northwestern, an English major, helped him write his essay, but it wasn't like me imposing some, high paid college coach that would have been my idea.
Yeah.
And I said, here are some options for you. Make those decisions that you feel most comfortable with. Same thing with virtual visits. He's like, Dad, I can do some of these, virtually. And by the way, I love virtual. He's got the Oculus and the headset. He goes, I can do all this stuff. You've given me some of those tools. My words, not his. But you've let me run, and I really feel better about my decision. So in the end, I think giving him some of those options was really good. The hardest part for me was, where do I step in? Where do I stay out? But we developed a cadence after a while. And by the way, things like, that deposit is due. I'm still very much engineering that on his behalf. Like I'm not going to have him miss deadlines over it. But he really started to take that ownership, and it felt great. And that's when we really got to this great partnership, and it worked out.
Yeah. Let me ask you, Dan, any surprises for you for, coming at it as a dad this time and not as a recruiting professional or leader?
There were two things that really struck me. Number one is, we as TA professionals are always trying to get a sense for what the market and what the market wants and what talent wants. And for early talent, you make a lot of assumptions, but you have a lot of data. It was so fascinating to watch it happen with my son. So my son, for example, he had to schedule a visit, and he went online to schedule it, and it wasn't working. So he had to call someone. He turned to me, he goes, Dad, I don't want to call someone to schedule a visit. That should be done online. I'm like, Yes, it should. The call should be made for when it's much more personal, or you need to do a follow-up, et cetera. So that kind of validation, I was like, wow, this is happening in real time. The stuff that I get in reports and data drops is happening real time in front of my eyes. So that was surprising. The other thing is, and this is not new, for a long time, I've been defending Gen X, Gen Y, millennials, Chris, like when we were that age, we did our own thing, and all this, what they don't bring to the table. I was very pleasantly surprised. My son's a great kid. I know I'm biased, but at the level of ownership he took over the process, even as a 17-year-old boy that had lots of other stuff going on, he goes, Dad, this is my future. I'm going to take it seriously. And I think there's a lot of that maybe we as more seasoned professionals discount, because it doesn't look the same as when we did it, but doesn't mean that that's not the same passion or interest or fervor to get it right. And to see that play out, I was like, wow, that's really awesome to see in practice.
That is impressive, and it's not too terribly get off my lawn.
Yeah, exactly. I love it. We're gonna walk barefoot up this hill, both ways, whether you're in the snow.
Killing a bear with a loose notebook.
That's right.
Okay, so Dan, I'll ask you. These are short snippets, so I want you to rev us up. I got a new question that I'm asking our guests.
Okay. Fire away.
If you had to boil down your message to be the title of a book, what would the title of that book be? So
I gave this some thought, and I've landed on put your mask on first, because I learned through this process, I'm not helping anybody if I don't first check in with, who am I going to be in this process? Am I prepared to provide? I just wanted to jump in and do like looking externally. So put your mask on first. All of you hear that message, you're on the plane. You're no good to anyone else if you're not properly trained, rested, the right mindset, and thinking about what your role needs to be. And in this situation, that was huge. It wasn't until I started putting my mask on and realizing what I was bringing to the table and what I wasn't, that I really was able to help them. So that's what I would do. Put your mask on first. Don't forget yourself. You're no good to anyone else without it.
Oh, I love that. Okay, and then a little follow-up question.
Yeah.
Who do you give the first signed copy to?
Wow. All right. So I'll give the first signed copy to my daughter, because she'll actually read it. If I gave it to my son, he'd put it in the closet. We'd never see it again. But then honestly, I would give it to the most senior people. You'd get a copy, like senior leaders that really get it. Because I find that we once we've been in our careers for a long time, feel the need to let me noodle, let me edit, let me help, let me, all from good intent. Yeah. But forgetting the fact, you have to take that time out to make sure that you're, continue to develop your own skills and approach and toolbox. And I think some people tend to forget that and just dive right in without, checking in first. So, and any senior person that I respect and like and work with, so I'll put you on that list. I see Jeffrey Moss is in there. I give him one. I give Josh one. I'd have to forget. I'm just going to go on Amazon and put out 1,000 copies. There we go.
It'll be a bestseller.
Yeah, why not? Well, at least in my mind. In my mind, anyway. Yeah.
I love it. All right, I'm going to put you back in the green room, but don't go anywhere, okay? All right. Thanks so much, Dan. Look, hey, next week we've got HR.com's Matt Charney with us to hear about what he thinks about community and the world of HR he's been living in over the last few months. On June 1st, our members have the treat of joining our Solutions Spotlight. They're going to meet Athena Karp, CEO and founder of HiredScore, of course, and she'll walk them through what's new and noteworthy in her platform. I think we've also got Ravi, who's the CEO and founder of Proven Base. He's going to do a Solutions Spotlight on the 9th. Members are also going to want to watch for our upcoming, we've got a Q2 EMEA community meeting on June 15th and our CXR workshop on design thinking that is coming up June 16th. So these and a lot more, you can find it at cxr.works/events. Watchers and listeners, please subscribe and share the CXR podcast. And remember, you can catch up on hundreds of these previously episodes over at cxr.works/podcast. And with that, we're going to see everybody next week.
Thanks for listening to the CXR channel. Please subscribe to CXR on your favorite podcast resource and leave us a review while you're at it. Learn more about CXR at our website, cxr.works, facebook.com and twitter.com/careercrossroads, and on Instagram at careerxroads. We'll catch you next time.